New card alert coming at you from WKOP, the orbital platform hosted by me, Golden Nova. Hey everyone, how's it going? What is with these announcements showing up right as I'm about to go to bed? It's almost like they're coming from a whole different time zone. Anyway, just saw notifications for this. The new cards coming out of Valiant Smashers. Last time we saw the Trihorn Dragon retrain, which everyone is looking forward to. This time around it looks like it's the Valmonicas, Angle and Debiru, and if that is their actual names, I'm going to lose my mind, because, yeah, the Angle slash Devil, or Demon, I can be your Angle or your Devil, that's it. I'm very hip with the memes, folks. I'm looking forward to seeing what these are about. I don't know a gosh darn thing about it. Let's see. Okay, cool. Pendulums are here. Cool. I'm sure this won't cause any problems. Angelo Valmonica, level 4, Dark Fairy Pendulum, Pendulum Scale 3, 1200 attack, 2100 defense. While you have a Fiend monster card in your other Pendulum zone, each time you gain life points, place a Resonance counter on this card. And it has counters. I'm already getting Endymion flashbacks. Once per turn, when an opponent's monster declares an attack, you can immediately after this effect resolves link summon a Valmonica monster. So it's before the attack resolves, it's just on attack declaration. So it's a link and a pendulum. This is already boding very poorly for us. As a monster, if this card is in your hand, you can discard one other card, place this card and one Damone Valmonica from your deck in your Pendulum zone. Okay, so it's instant scale, as long as it's in the hand, instant scale. During the main phase, if this card was normal or special summon this turn, you can banish a Valmonica normal spell or trap card from your graveyard. This effect becomes that card's life point gain effect when that card is activated. There is a million questions about this card that are not being answered by this card initially. So, counters, link summoning, and life point gain are all important factors in this. Okay. Damone is their counterpart, Light Fiend Pendulum monster, scale of 4, Pendulum scale 5, 1200 attack, 2100 defense. While you have a fairy monster card in your other Pendulum zone, each time you take effect damage, place a resonance counter on this card. So, this one's if you gain life points, it gains a resonance. If this one, if you take effect damage, you place a resonance. Okay, so I think there might be a thing where, like, you take damage to do effects, but then it also has things that gain you life points, so it's going to be kind of a loop thing. Monsters your opponent controls lose 100 attack for each resonance counter on cards you control. Okay, so this counts the other Pendulum scale. So the more resonances you get, the more debuff your opponent gets. Technically, you could put 2 of these in the scale and then double that effect, but then you wouldn't be getting the ability that puts resonance counters on there, so I don't think you're likely. I guess since it just counts the resonance on the field, you could stack a whole bunch of counters on one monster and then play another Damone to get double debuff, but we'll see how viable that actually is. If you can stack enough resonance counters, that 100 debuff can get out of control really quickly. Okay, if this card's in your hand, you can discard one other card, place this card. Okay, so this is also a 1-card scale. Ridiculous. During the main phase, if this card is normal or special summoned, you can banish a Valmonica normal spell or trap card from your graveyard. This effect becomes that card's damage-inflicting effect when this card... Damage-inflicting, is that a term that we've ever used before? Like, obviously we have things that inflict damage, but categorizing cards as damage-inflicting effects, I don't know if we've ever actually seen. Not upset about it, I just think it's funny. Okay. Odd Deity Valmonica Gyarm. Link 1, a Dark Fairy Link monster requiring any effect monster, but it cannot be Link summoned unless you have a Fairy monster card with 3 or more resonance counters in your Pendulum zone. You can only special summon a card with this name once per turn. If this card is Link summoned, you can target monsters your opponent controls up to the number of resonance counters on cards in your Pendulum zone only, and destroy them. You can remove 3 resonance counters from cards in your Pendulum zone. This card can make a 2nd and 3rd attack during each battle phase. And note that it does not have the on monsters effect. Good grief. Okay, cool. Neither, this does not have a once per turn effect restriction. And neither does this. Okay, good to know, good to know. So, we need to have a fairy monster, so we need to have Angelo. And then we also need to accumulate 3 counters in total. It doesn't consume the counters to do the link summon too, so you still have them available for the attack, multi-attack. So this is 7,500 bare minimum when it hits the board. And when it hits board, it pops 3 cards? Target monsters. Okay, so it can't hit back row. But when it's being summoned, you're hitting at least 3 monsters. Rough. So, Divine Oddity of Valmonica Zebufera. So this was an odd deity, but this is a Divine Oddity. Very cute. 2,500 attack, Light Fiend. Can't be link summoned unless you have a Fiend monster card with 3 or more resonance counters in your Pendulum zone. Oh, okay. No. Okay, those need to individually have that number of resonance counters. It doesn't count between both of them. Okay. So I guess that's better. If this card were to be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can remove 3 resonance counters from cards in your Pendulum zones instead. And once per opponent's turn as a quick effect, you can target one of your Valmonica normal spell or trap cards that is banished or is in your graveyard. This effect becomes that card's effect when that card is activated. So you just get the whole thing. Okay. Buddy. If you hear noises, just assume that it's Moby again. Just laying over here. Once again, I started recording, and he decided he was gonna chill out over here, but we love him. Okay. Angelic Demonic Selector Valmonica. Excuse me really quickly. It looks like it's shaped like a piano, and it has like the thing for sheet music. How do you play this? It's incredible. Okay, when this card resolves, you can add a Valmonica monster from your deck to your hand, which is either of them. They're both Valmonicas. Yeah, okay, so they're both going. So this gets you to your... This field spell gets you to your 1-card Pendulum starters. If the 3rd resonance counter is placed on a card in your Pendulum zone, you can target 1 monster your opponent controls and take control of it until the end phase, but it can't declare an attack. Okay, so we can steal things too! Notably, this happens when the counter is placed on it, so it's a trigger effect. So if we have things that gain us resonance counters, you know, at odd times, we could steal during our opponent's turn, but it is a little clunky. Valmonica Versar, normal spell card. You can only activate 1 card of this card's name per turn. Apply 1 of these effects, your opponent's choice, if you do not have a Valmonica card in your Pendulum zone. Gain 500 life points, then you can excavate cards from the top of your deck until you excavate a Valmonica card, and if you do, add it to your hand, also shuffle the rest back into the deck. Or take 500 damage, then you can send a Valmonica card from your deck to the graveyard. That is so funny. Because it's not like... The effects are so specific to the deck that it's weird that there's a restriction for if you don't have a Valmonica card in the Pendulum scales, but I guess it adds some really funny flavor to it. So this will enable either of our effects to... either of our scales to get a counter on there. While setting us up, the first one being a Strange Stratos, the other one being a known Foolish Burial. Valmonica Intonaire, normal spell card. Same conditions as last one. If we get to pick one unless we don't have a Valmonica card in our Pendulum zone, in which case our opponent chooses. We can either gain 500, then your opponent chooses a monster in your graveyard that can be special summoned, if any, for you to special summon. Oh, okay, so they get to choose the monster no matter what on this one. Or take 500, then you can add a level 4 monster from your grave to your hand. So we have a whole bunch of level 4s, or not a whole bunch. Our main monsters are level 4s right now. Cute. Very cute. Interesting idea here. We will have to be very selective about the monsters we have in our graveyard. Though, to be fair, if we're a Pendulum deck, and we ensure that our monsters don't go to the graveyard, they just go to our face-up extra deck, that could mean that we only have extra deck monsters in the graveyard for our opponent to choose, so we might leave them with a bad choice. I guess if we play hand traps, they could just give us hand traps back, so I'll have to be careful about that. Okay, Valmonica of the Guiding Rhythm. If you control a Valmonica monster card, apply one of these effects. Or if you control a Valmonica Link monster, you can apply both in sequence. Okay, that's awesome. So the spell cards, we get one, and we possibly don't get to choose what it is. If it's a trap card, we have to control a Valmonica monster for it. But if it's a Link monster, we get both. So we gain 500 life points, then you can destroy a spell or trap on the field, and then take 500 life points, so it'd be a net neutral. Then you can return one monster on the field to the hand. So pop a back row, and it's a compulse. And it gets us 2 resonance counters. Cool. Now, noticeably, we would need to already have a whole bunch of resonance counters to get a Link monster on board, but if we're just trying to get to get to those counters, we can still activate this and pick one of them. Okay. Valmonica of the Selecting Melody. You can only activate one card turn. This card's name per turn. Has the same thing. We can only activate if we control a Valmonica monster card. But notably, these do say Valmonica monster cards. So we can activate this even if we just have them in the scales. Because it's monster card, not a monster. Very weird ruling here. Selecting Melody, we can gain 500 life points. Also, your opponent cannot target Valmonica monster cards you control with card effects for the rest of the turn. Great for flipping up during draw phase. Take 500 damage, and then you can negate the effects of one effect monster your opponent controls until the end of this turn. Interesting. So, obviously, it's nice to have the ability to keep our monster cards, once again, so this also keeps our pendulum scale safe. But the fact that the second effect is... Because, like, if we only have access to one, then it is going to be, like, a pick and choose, right? Like, does our opponent have targeting effects? Activate it now. Versus, do we need to stop our opponent from doing something, in which case we hold on to it so that we can negate their effect. If you have access to both, it's going to be difficult to tell. Still pretty good, though. Still pretty good. Because, and I see we're going into the reprints here, so I wanted to reread the Light Link monster first really quickly. Once per opponent's turn, you can target one of your Valmonica normal spell or trap cards that is banished in your graveyard. This effect becomes this card's effect when this card is activated. Now, notably, this does not shuffle the card back into your deck. It does not take the card out of that zone, which means that we can just keep selecting the same one over and over again every time. So, and it doesn't count as that card's effect. So we could do like, okay, your turn starts, I target selecting Melody. Our stuff can't be targeted, and then I can activate my set Valmonica whenever I feel like it. And then you control a Valmonica Link monster when doing that, so you get all of these effects anyway, which is hilarious. Okay, reprint time. Protecting Spirit Logath and Stained Glass of Light and Dark. Okay, so I'm going to reread these really quickly, just so that we're all up to date on what these cards do. Okay, so Protecting Spirit Logath, Light Fairy, if this card on the field is destroyed by battle, or if this card on the field is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can target a monster on the field that can't be destroyed by battle this turn. If an effect of a fairy monster you control is activated, except during the damage step, you can special summon this card from your hand. You can target one face-up card your opponent controls, and when attack position monster you control, banish that opponent's monster, and if you do, change your monster to defense position. I don't see a ton of synergy because it's a fairy and a fiend, so only half of the time you're, like, triggering this. What about... Now, Stained Glass of Light and Darkness, though. That's the ticket. So, apply any of the following effects in sequence, depending on the types of effect monsters you control. If you have a fairy, you can draw 3 cards, then place 2 from your hand on the bottom of your deck in any order. So, it's Graceful Charity, but you don't discard. You kind of tuck the cards away forever. Fiend, you can make your opponent draw a card, then discard a random card, and if they still have cards in their hand, they discard 1 card. So, that one's kind of like a Delinquent Duo, I think it is, but your opponent gets to, like, draw a card to make up for it. It's a net loss, but discarding can be kind of iffy. Still, I'll take the draw 3 effect no matter what. So, what do we take away from these cards here? Accumulating the counters on here is going to be a big point of contention. Now, notably, because the spell cards don't let us do both, we can't get both counters on them at once. So we do need to, I think, prioritize one over the other so we can get those counters on there as soon as possible. We also might see a bunch of cards that randomly deal damage to ourselves or gain us life points. The deal damage to ourselves might be more prevalent. My first thought was Evil Eye, but that causes us to lose life points. I don't think it causes us to do damage, so that doesn't count the same way. Oh man, there's gotta be something on here. Maybe there's like you could use the Dark Serpent Hallway or something that like it does an extra 200 burn damage or something. This is a cute archetype. I like the idea here. I don't just mean that these are cute, but like the idea is pretty cute here. So we want to play as many life point manipulating effects for ourselves as possible to rack up counters as quickly as possible. Once we reach the threshold here, we link summon one, and then pendulum summon out the one that we linked away. If it's our own monster, it only takes any effect monster, so technically almost anything that we can put on the board will make it. But if it's another like pendulum monster, presumably level 4, we're playing a lot of level 4 pendulum monsters in this build. We pendulum summon it back, and if we have the requirements for the other one, we can just link that one. And then we have the pop 3 to deal a whole bunch of damage. And then we have the... well, this one doesn't do anything much on our turn. It just provides protection for itself. Yeah, it's only for itself. It doesn't protect anything else. But if you need to, like, if you need to survive through your opponent's turn, this gives you some counterplay. But you should have what you need to just punch your opponent. This is interesting because if you wanted to splash this into regular pendulum decks, this one is really restrictive. You need to be playing these in the scales if you want to access the link monsters, but you can only play you can only pendulum level 4s with this. So off the top of my head, you can't really play this with things like Endymion because they love pendulum summoning a whole variety of cards. You could conceivably play this with like the Pend Magicians because they're all level 4, but you're never going to put them in scales, so you're never going to get any of those effects. I must be missing something here. I must be missing something else here, but I feel like this deck still has like some legs to it. Just the fact that Guillarm is just like, I'm going to destroy you immediately when I am summoned, makes us feel like it's supposed to be like a strong going second deck. We would just need the effects that enable it. And I'm worried those just don't exist. The mechanisms for gaining life points or dealing damage to ourselves don't exist yet to make this viable. I would love to be wrong because I think the deck idea is interesting, but I don't know if it's quite there yet. And everyone keeps telling me to like keep looking at the numbers, which they're right, of course. Those do kind of give it away. There has to be like one that is like 31, 32, 33, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, this is interesting. What comes between a field spell and a normal spell? Maybe there's another field spell. Maybe there's a second field spell. It kind of makes sense. There's a bunch of duality going on here anyway. This one already kind of represents it with like it's a selector, but maybe we'll see another one. What is the stuff going on here? So there's an instrument. I feel like it's supposed to be a piano, but there's a whole bunch of serving drinks here. Oh, there's explanations right at the bottom. Okay. Tenma is half and half of the kanji of angel and devil. Saisenki is a pun on a different sensei, Saisenki, which is written as spirit plus selector plus device. The original word is some device that is used to select and separate grain, such as a winnowing machine or a sieve. The first kanji for spirit could refer to those pendulum monsters. The spell card's name itself replaces the kanji for voice, which would make this device a separator sieve between angelic and demonic voices. And these are serving drinks to... There is someone there. Someone, well, there's someone in the other picture. So the machine is distilling the evil and good essences of, like, advice or, like, intentions or something. That is a very funny thing to build an archetype around. Let's take a look at these two really quickly as well. Oh my gosh, it's Anima. It's Anima from Final Fantasy X. Holy cow. Can we zoom in on this one real quick? Can we, That's not doing much for the resolution, as it shouldn't. Okay, that's a bop. And then we have a big old dragon. Very funny how, despite being distilled, there's still a light fiend and a dark fairy. Once again, Yu-Gi-Oh! Messing with the dichotomy of light and dark, good and evil, fiend and fairy to maybe tell us a little something about how the world ain't just black and white. Let's look at these really quickly as well. Okay, the ultis for these cards are going to be next level. Ultis, collectors, whatever it is, if they texture these little plates that are behind them, it is going to be fantastic. So yeah, final thoughts. Interesting beatdown strategy. Doesn't take advantage of a lot of Pendulum's inherent strengths of using a whole bunch of different monsters, though it could be proven wrong if there's a big enough level 4 base to work with all of this, or if there's a way to tag these out once you've gotten your Link monsters into play, because once you get them into play, you can hopefully just get them back over and over again with the revival effect from Intonair. I wonder if on a whole other thing, is there like another explanation for these cards here? Reitsu, rhythm, placing the sound. There's a lot of musical motif here, so that's why it must look like a piano. And once again, pendulums have always been associated with music for a long, long, long time. Its name seems to be a portmanteau of Belzub and Bufera, also the divine oddity in the word, the opposite word of gear. Okay, so I wasn't just making that up. Okay, yeah, nothing else to talk about here. Okay, so yeah, interesting stuff. I can't wait to see how it goes. I can't wait to see if this presumably second field spell has anything to do. And I'm looking forward to seeing what you all have to say. These are our first impressions, and we all know that when I look at something for the first time, I am neither informed nor clever enough to think of the applications of this, but you aren't on camera. You can do the research. Let me know in the comments what weird combos are people already cooking up, what's the future of this archetype mayhaps, and of course, make sure to subscribe and like for more wonderful first reactions to all of Yu-Gi-Oh's latest news, and as always, I will see you next time. Bye-bye. Today's episode was brought to you in part by Dragon Shield. When you want to protect your cards with the power of dragon scales, get some sweet lore for them, and support the channel, check out my link in the description to get started. Today's episode was also brought to you by my lovely patrons, including this month's illustrious Quasar Commander Green Knight, Nebula Navigator's 3rd Dynasty, Ada Basilisk, Adam Zajadel, Andrew Newman, A Random Pup, Avi Chali, Kane Senpai, Chibi Gohan, Danny Bound, Eric, Aaron the World Breaker, Frankie, Genesis Yu-Gi-Oh, Gloomba331, Great Big Pillock, Hairbear, Harry the Ominous Benefactor, Howling Zangetsu, Iskander711, John, Jordan, Julius Sneezer, Mana Charge, Marluxia's a Girl, Molly Renata, Nathan Vig, Panther J, Rebel King Lucifer, RJ the Jank Monarch, Sammy Haim, Sir Knight JCB, Sky Buster Leo, Sophie, apparently, The Wizard Moose and Xander Wolfensberger, Cosmic Crusaders Almento 5010, Aaron, Ariel Kersey, Beluga Masta, Blue Gem, Chaz Ghost, Chris Kessler, Corbinisms, Drachenwald, Eki Bullock, Emily, Eva Padilla, Hake Boyagian, Herbal D, In the House Like Carpet, Inblink, Jester Designs, Kale the Dragon, Carp, Kevon Public, King Scarlet Yu-Gi-Oh, Lemon Yu-Gi-Oh, Lord Whoop-De-Doo, Manga Pages, Marion James E. Picata, Matt Simmons, Mega Combi, Michael Shimabukuro, Nadia McCarthy, Nitromo, Ruxith Sarani, Shizuka Nijimura, Star-Lord 777, Stephen Williamson, the Legendary Raven, Tucker Ordorn, and Zal Dureka, as well as the wonderful Starlight Explorers you see on screen now. If you'd like to help me in my journey to cover all of Yu-Gi-Oh's archetypes, participate in monthly custom card reviews, and just keep the lights on in general, please consider becoming a patron by using that link in the description or by becoming a YouTube member.